investment funding of projects in that country from UAE. It is in such directions that the solution to the overhang, to the shortage of liquidity in the foreign exchange market is being sought. The whole gamut, including increases in oil production as a result of greater security. It is difficult to predict because the markets, the capital markets, take on a psychology of their own. But I would just like to warn that all the models are showing that the fundamental value of the Naira should be somewhere around 700. So therefore, a note of caution to the speculators. As liquidity flows in and the rate comes rapidly down, there's a chance that they could lose their shirts. It's just a warning. Your Excellency, you did raise the issue of the Consolidated Revenue Fund. You did raise the issue of adherence to the Constitution. His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a Democrat. He's someone that believes in federalism. He believes in true fiscal federalism. He believes in the rule of law. And so it is my belief that he would not countenance or knowingly spend or authorize to be spent funds that have not been duly appropriated by this august body and others who are so authorized to do. Thank you.
Mike. I can imagine that you can't wait to go. Think about. Thank you. On the other side, thank you for the elucidation on a lot of issues. The Senate leader. By the nominee before us is well known to all of us. So, Your Excellency, you are welcome. You may wish to add a few, just a kind of summarized version of your resume, and then thereafter take questions from the distinguished senators. The floor is yours.
Your Excellency, Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, my name is Nasir Ahmad Erufai. I am standing before you as a result of being nominated to be a minister of the government of the Federation. I was born about 63 years ago in Daudawa, a village in Katsina State. And I attended primary school in Daudawa and Kao, Kaduna. Then went to Barewa College between 1972 and 1976. Completed the West African School Certificate and went to Ahmadu Bello University, where I graduated in 1980 with a degree in quantity surveying. 2 years later, I went back to school to get a master's in business administration from the same university, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. And a year later, completed a postgraduate diploma in computer science. Subsequently, in years ahead, I got a law degree from the University of London and NLB from University of London, a master's in public administration from Harvard University Kennedy School of Government. I started my business as a consulting quantity surveyor in 1981 after completing my youth service in Ogun State, and I served in Abeokuta with a company called George Wimpy Nigeria Limited, then building the Oyan River Dam. I worked for a few months, the construction company building the ABU Teaching Hospital before establishing the quantity surveying consulting firm, Erufai and Partners. The firm still exists. It's one of the largest quantity surveying firms in the country. It's being run by my partners. I left the firm since 1998 when I was asked by General Abdul Salam Abubakar to be one of his policy advisors after the death of General Sani Abacha. During the handover to President-elect Obasanjo, the President-elect promised me that he would want to invite me to work with him when he takes over, and he did. I was appointed the Director General of the Bureau of Public Enterprises, where I was tasked to kickstart the federal government privatization program, which had been suspended since 1993. During that period, for the next 4 years from 1999, I was in charge of the program. And it was during this period that we privatized most of the banks, commercial banks, cement, sugar companies, vehicle assembly plants. And we also designed and steered the reforms in key sectors like telecommunications, which turned out to be quite successful. We also started reforms in the electricity supply industry and oil and gas. In fact, the first draft of what turned out to be the Petroleum Industry Act was drafted by the BPE when I was in charge. Some of the distinguished senators here were either in the House of Representatives or in the executive branch, like distinguished Senator Goje, who was Minister of State for Power. We all worked together to steer these reforms ahead. I was then appointed
on the person standing before us, Chief Uchennaji. Chief Uchennaji, like we all know, is a visionary industrialist, oil and gas expert, a pro-democracy activist. This young man, at a very young age, was detained by Abacha. This young man, he won a senatorial seat. He was senator-elect in 1999, but because of his loyalty, he bequeathed that seat for Chief Jim Nwobodo. He was also the gubernatorial candidate of APC in 2023. I urge my distinguished colleagues to please give him the honor of bowing and go. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Osutangu.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am still Osita Ngu. I'm here on behalf of the people of Enugu West. Mr. President, thank you also for the privilege to speak about and to the nominee from the coal city, Chief Uche Geoffrey Nnaji. We call him Nwakibie. Mr. President, when the President announced Nwakibie as the nominee from Enugu State, the state went in rejoicing mood. Everybody is happy. And the three senators from Enugu, even though none of us is from his party, are all in support. Mr. President, he is not just a politician. In fact, we know him less as a politician because he's a philanthropist, an industrialist, and in several sectors that he touched, he opened up his business. He's a managing director in about 5 companies that are doing extremely well. He is one of the nominees of Mr. President that has distinguished himself in the private sector. He is a construction expert. He is a health expert in aspect of health infrastructure. He's an oil and gas magnate, distinguishing himself in agriculture, and here, he is here in this hallowed chamber to be confirmed. Your Excellency, Mr. President, he is the immediate past governorship candidate of the All Progressive Congress. Even though I worked for PDP and we defeated him, but it's not because he's not capable. We know he's also competent. In 1999, you can imagine someone at a young age to win senatorial election in Enugu State. Or in AD, it wasn't fashionable to be in Alliance for Democracy in the Southeast as at that time. But Chief Nnaji won as a senator, was a senator-elect under the platform of Alliance for Democracy. Mr. President, if we go by our tradition, a senator-elect declared by INEC is almost a senator. So I will support what my distinguished colleague said here, that Mwakibie, with the qualities that we have mentioned, is qualified to bow and go. Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, this chamber.
Distinguished Senator Goje.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Mohammed Danjuma Goje, representing Gombe Central. Mr. President, I stand to strongly recommend Chief Uche Naji for confirmation as a Minister, Federal Republic of Nigeria. I know him very well for the past 25 years. He is a detribalized Nigerian, like said by one of the speakers. He established businesses all over the country. I know he has businesses here in the north. He has been doing business with many northerners. He has employed them. Some are his partners. He's a good Nigerian. He is also very meticulous, very sincere and honest. And therefore, when I saw his name, I was very elated. And I'm happy for whatever ministry Mr. President takes him to him. He will do very well, and I'm sure that he will not disappoint us. For this reason, he may not be a senator, even though he was senator-elect. I was also once a senator-elect in 1998, but because Abacha died, I could not call myself senator. So I know what it meant to suffer. For somebody to go through elections, to finance the election, to win the election, only waiting for swearing. At least, as Osita said, he is near the thing. Even if he's not there, he's very close to becoming a senator. So for this reason, Mr. President, I urge my colleagues to endorse and confirm this very good nominee, a very good detribalized Nigerian, and a committed philanthropist, and a good businessman. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Darlington.
Thank you, the President of the Senate and their colleagues. My name is Darlington Nwokocha. I speak for the entire Nigeria, but Abia Central in particular. Mr. President of Senate and my dear colleagues, I'm happy that we have Uche Geoffrey Naji. Asked him for us to clear him. And I thank God he's going to feature prominently, by the special grace of God, in the National Executive Council. At this point of our nation economy, we need this kind of young men that are very vast in all areas of operation. He's vast in the industrial area, oil and gas, construction, health, which means if we find him in the National Executive Council, he will brainstorm effectively and make the necessary contributions. And I know quite well that at this point, we need people that can think out of the box to see how our economy will move towards the right direction. And I'm sure that Geoffrey Naji will feature and do that exactly well. By the special grace of God also, I know that his younger brother, who presently is a member of House of Representatives, who is doing well there, making us proud, will actually guide him right in terms of legislative input to take the right decision, look into the necessary laws, if he finds himself in any of the ministries, and he will guide me right, and so that he will have a perfect result. Therefore, I call on my colleagues to read in between the lines, and let's clear him for him to represent his state and entire Nigeria in offering the best that will move our country to the highest, greater heights. Thank you, Mr. Senate President.
Chairman, public petition.
Mr. President,
My name is Okechukwu Ezia. I represent the great people of Enugu North Senatorial Zone. The nominee before us is from my state, and I will not want to waste the time of this distinguished Senate. Other speakers have said all positives about him. We all support his candidature, and I would urge my colleagues to please allow the nominee to take a bow. But before I close, Mr. President, I want to make a point here. I want to draw your attention to Section 14, subsection 3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It states, the composition of the government of the Federation or any of its agencies shall recognize and reflect the federal character of Nigeria and need to promote national unity and also to command national loyalty, thereby ensuring that there shall be no predominance of persons from a few states or from a few ethnic or other sectional groups in the government and its agencies. The point I'm making, I'm not saying that Enugu State is not represented. The point I'm making is that since 1999, Enugu State has produced 8 ministers, none from my senatorial zone. Please, it's important. I need to say what affects my senatorial zone. Please, Mr. President, sir, as the government is going to nominate more candidates, I expect that my senatorial zone will be recognized. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Ezia, and you are the chairman of public petitions, and you are yourself a petitioner. Senator, carry me.
Thank you, Mr. President. My point of order is on Order 52, Rule 4. A senator must confine his observation to the subjects under discussion and may not introduce matter irrelevant thereto.
Point of order is sustained. Let me thank my distinguished colleagues for all your contributions. And the nominee, it looks like you are a nationalist. So if you are given this opportunity, what do you think you will do to create more employment opportunities for the young Nigerians?
First and foremost, Your Excellency, I'm humbled by the kind words coming from the distinguished senators of the Federal Republic about me. When I was running for the governorship of Enugu State, unfortunately, Enugu State has a 52.9% unemployment rate, unfortunately. Enugu State has an unemployment rate of 52.9%. Simply, what we were looking at from my team was to use agriculture in the state as the main area of employment. At the time in question, we were looking at in every senatorial zone, if we can have up to 10 to 50,000 square meters of, hectares of land, then we will dedicate each of the zones with the type of agriculture that the zone will sustain. And as we are harvesting it, like if we take rice, for instance, if we are doing rice, as we are harvesting the rice paddies, we are setting up the rice mill so that the paddies goes to the mill right away. And as you are bringing out rice from the mill, you are packaging, using some for our people, sending some for export. If you do that way, so that the paddies goes to the mill right away. If you look at in an area where Senator Ostang, distinguished Senator Ostang represents, the area called Aniri, they do a lot of okra. But because they don't have people off-take, they don't have off-takers, it is difficult for them to make money. Most of the time, they end up trashing those okra, you know. But if you have off-takers, maybe government of taking it from them, you know, it will be easy for more people to be planting okra. Most of the time, they end up trashing those okra, you know. But if you have off-takers, maybe government of taking it from them, you know, it will be easy for more people to be planting okra and more people getting paid out of using, out of cultivating okra. So that's the same for every other area of agriculture. You know, once you have an off-take, if government has an industry, which is the secondary economy, if you have an industry that is taking off the products, you know, more people will go into agriculture, and our youths will no longer be idle. And this will touch on the security of the zone as we talk, because if the youths are engaged, the security of the zone will be taken care of. So that's my take on how we can reduce employment. So this can be multiplied in a bigger thing like Nigeria.
Your area of concentration in job creation will be agriculture and associated fields, and particularly where you have the other components of it, which is production and the use of the agricultural products. So if you have associated small and micro industries, then you have government creating a situation of off-taking, where they become the off-takers. So as they produce, those things are taken away. And so you make money in two ways also. Thank you for your contribution. You may now take a bow. The next person. Okay.
Mr. President, I want you to take our standing order and look at Order 40 and read it so that we will be properly guided. Or do I read it out? 41. Because we have a lot of work to do.
ó ń wọlé ó ń wíìkì sí kan náà lójú kù síbẹ̀. Ọtún ràn lọ́wọ́ àwọn òfin against them.
Do I go ahead? No. I'm just saying, you see, as we are screening, these issues of partition should only be directed as in the order.
Point of order is noted. Yes. Distinguished colleagues, we have another nominee before us, a former woman leader of my party, and she's here. The distinguished nominee, no, you are not distinguished. You are a former woman leader of my party. If it is Senator Baribe, he will use his head to know that I'm not in APGA. And if it is Senator Ningi, he will use his teeth to count his tongue. so my sister, go ahead. Introduce yourself and then small resume. And after that, you answer questions from your brothers and sisters in the Hallowed Chamber.
Good evening, His Excellency, the President of the 10th Senate, my leader, His Excellency Godswill Akpabio. Good evening to the Deputy President of the 10th Senate, my leader, Senator Jubril Barau. I hope I got it correct this time, sir. Thank you. The majority leader, the leader of the 10th Assembly and other leaders of the 10th Assembly. Good evening, very distinguished senators of the 10th Assembly. I stand before you today with profound gratitude to God Almighty and to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with a deep sense of purpose to share with you a glimpse of my life's journey, my academic qualification, my experience and achievements as a Nigerian. My name is Stella Eriwogene Okotete. I was born on the 20th day of April, 1984. To late Francis Okotete of Ekerawe Kingdom in Agbaro, Warri Delta State. I attended Twins Fountain Group of Schools, Ogunu, in Warri Delta State, and proceeded to the Federal Government Girls College, Benin City, in Edo State, where I obtained my senior school leaving certificate. I also attended the prestigious River State College of Art and Science, Rumola, in Port Harcourt, where I also obtained my diploma in law in 2002. I also proceeded to Benson Idausa University in Benin City, where I obtained a BA in International Studies and Diplomacy, and proceeded to serve, where I did my orientation camp in Benin, Kebbi State, and finished my service in Edo State. I served with Braindog Ventures Limited, 20 Ekenwa Road in Benin City, Edo State, and went into politics. I had my share in politics as I was affirmed by the appeal court as a councillor representing the good people of Agbaro in Ughelli North Local Government in Delta State. I held that office for a period and served as chairman of the Councillors Committee on Education and the vice chair on health. During my short stay in the council, I was able to drive the governor's free education projects and programs in my local government. The governor found me worthy and appointed me as a special assistant in 2011 on Millennium Development Goals in Delta State. As SA Millennium Development Goals, I was more in charge of monitoring and evaluation, policy formation, and implementations of the Millennium Development Goals across poverty eradication, maternal mortality reduction, and child mortality reduction, as well as projects that has to do with education. In 2015, May 29th, the tenure of His Excellency came to an end. And the immediate past president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 2017 found me worthy and appointed me in line with the Act of the Nigerian Export and Import Bank, Section 11 and Section 8 and 14. He appointed me Executive Director of the Nigerian Export and Import Bank in charge of business development. The functions of the ED of the bank, which I still hold till date, is to drive the business directorate of the bank to create quality risk assets and also provide funding to exporters in the non-oil sector. When we resumed in 2017, we met a balance sheet size of 67 billion. We grew it as at 2022, when our tenure was renewed, to 256 billion. We also met a bank that was already recording losses year in, year out for 3 years. As at 2016, the bank recorded over 6 billion loss. Today, the Nigerian Export and Import Bank is standing shoulder to shoulder as one of the leading export credit agencies of Africa. We recorded profits in 2022 of about 6 billion naira. I was also the woman representative, popularly known as the woman leader of the All Progressives Congress Critical Committee in 2020. As woman leader of the ruling All Progressives Congress at that time, I was able to bring to bear quality representations for our women, and we established new policies that would help shape visibility for our women across board. One of it is the Progressive Women Academy, which was approved by the Apple Store and the Google Store. It's an online academy where women can learn various soft skills to make themselves not just visible in the business space, but also in politics. I also understood, being a very young politician that got into politics at a very young age, that there was need to build bridges across the older women in politics and the younger ones. And I established the Progressive Young Women's Forum, which was also a platform to groom future female leaders and mentor them. I'm proud to say today that I have women who were part of my mentees serving as commissioners, elected as House of Assembly members, and also councillors, and currently some of them as special assistants and advisors at various state levels. I also created the lobby group of the APC women, and we're able to galvanize stakeholders to accept the responsibility to push for more visibilities for our women. Based on that, when we did the review of the APC constitution, we're able to accommodate another seat for a woman in the NWC. Today, that's the only party in Africa that gives 2 seats, the leader, the woman leader seat, and the deputy woman leader seat to women in the NWC. I also, by the grace of God, was also able to influence such platforms for women across the party structure at the state, local government, and senatorial district. Mr. Senate President, while in Nexim, I'll tell you that I noticed that there was a short in our exports, especially with our commodity exports. Commodity exports in Nigeria, when we resumed, was at its lowest. And we noticed that export of commodities in its raw form means we're exporting labor and we're receiving nothing but very little earnings in FX. And to grow the sector, we decided to introduce products that would add value and export. Today, under our leadership, the leadership of Abubakar Bello and my humble self and my other colleague Bala Bello, we're able to initiate the PAVE agenda, the produce, add value and export. Today we are producing cashew nuts from Nigeria and exporting. We're also processing other agricultural products for export. Distinguished senators, in conclusion, sir, my vision for Nigeria aligns with the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the aspirations of our great nation to diversify our economy, to strengthen governance, to promote sustainable development, and foster strong global partnership, which I firmly believe. As a young politician, I have a creed, and I believe that public service is an opportunity for me to serve humanity, to give my best, and to ensure that I become a model for other young women in Nigeria and in extension Africa, so they could also add to the economic and social development and growth of their nation. Thank you very much, distinguished senators.
Well, in line with my usual practice of sometimes recognizing one person from the state of origin of you are not from there. This one that you had is up. Even Senator Abu, allow Senator Ide Dafinone, who is from there, to say something first. Eh? Because I know what you are going to say.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Chief Ide Dafinone, and I represent the good people of Delta Central Senatorial District in Delta State. I have to disclose as I start that the nominee is very well known to me as one of the constituents in Delta Central. As a strong politician, she has distinguished herself locally and also nationally in the work she has done for our party. But notwithstanding that, I've also worked very closely with the nominee when I served for 1 year as a non-executive director at Nexim Bank. What the nominee did not mention is that her position as the executive director of the business development unit meant that she was in the engine room of the bank. The business development office is the operational department of Nexim Bank. So she was in charge of operations of the bank. And in that position, she has been responsible for growing the balance sheet of the bank and has done exceptionally well. I want to add also that as a young woman, she has also favored the youth and women in her policies at the bank. That is aside from the policies she has done at home, encouraging young people in various developments and empowerment programs. She has also been very instrumental in growing non-oil exports.
And at today's date, non-oil exports are a key focus of this administration as we protect the need to grow our economy in the background of dwindling oil reserves and a move globally away from fossil fuels to more sustainable forms of energy. So my question that I would like to put to the nominee so that she can extend, yes please. My colleague says she has distinguished herself already. So what remains is for me to say that I speak on behalf of my two colleagues from Delta State, who are both fully in support of the nominee, and to ask distinguished members if the nominee from Delta State could please be recognized for her good work at Nexim Bank, with the background that she has served one complete term at Nexim Bank, and that term has been renewed about a year ago, which shows that she has distinguished herself at the bank. With that, Mr. President, I ask distinguished members to please ask the nominee from Delta State to please take a bow and go. Thank you, Excellency.
Off your mic. Honestly, when she mentioned that she was the woman leader of the greatest party in Africa, I just remember that we are all from political parties, and in normal circumstances, the party is supreme. Is it the wish of the Senate that the nominee should take a bow? Yes. Those who are in support say aye. Aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it.
VFly is a company that helps your YouTube videos go viral using Google Ads, which helps you get noticed in Google search, which, by the way, is the first reason why you should use VFly to promote your YouTube videos. They have big numbers with millions of views delivered and many thousands of campaigns and happy clients and growing. No. These numbers are fake. VFly is a scam. Okay, fine. Let's go to scamadvisor.com and test things out. So we all know that Facebook is a legit.
Adekola Adebayo Adelabu, a nominee from Belstar, answer some questions from the distinguished senators.
I invite the distinguished senator, the deputy, or the principal officers of this to you. News from Oyo Central. Tarafadin Ali is from Oyo South. Dr. Yusuf is from Oyo, representing the group of Oyo Central. I am happy to be back here once again, having been screened clear here 9 years ago. 14. A banker, having qualified in 1996 as a fellow Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, IBN. I'm a member of the United States Institute of Internal Auditors. I'm also an associate member of the Institute of Directors of Nigeria and the UK. And just last year, I was also conferred with the National Honor Officer of the Order of the Federal Republic, OFR, by our immediate past president, President Muhammadu Buhari. In the course of my career, I had training exposure, both locally and overseas, in most of the prestigious business schools across the world, including Harvard Business School in Boston, USA, Wharton Business School in Pennsylvania, USA, University of Columbia in New York, Stanford University in California, USA, and Kellogg's Business School, Evanston, Chicago, USA. I started my working career as a youth corper in 1993 with Active Bank. In 1992 to 93 as a youth corper in Warri, Delta State, where I did my service here. I completed my service here in 1993 to join an international firm of chartered accountants and management consultants called Price Waterhouse. It was the biggest accounting firm throughout the world at the time, under the leadership of Mr. Nsa Harrison, that we all know as the great accountant before he left us. I trained as an accountant, management consultant, between the year 1993 and year 2000, rising to the post of audit manager and senior consultant before moving over to the banking industry. At this time, I've actually achieved all the qualifications, professional qualifications that an accountant needed to face the industry. I chose to move over to banking industry, which was actually a landmark change in my career. I started with a small bank called First Atlantic Bank as a financial controller under the MDship of Mr. Femi Pedro. And I can confirm to this Allo chamber that I also have one of my colleagues that we served under Mr. Femi Pedro here. I was the financial controller of the bank as a senior manager. Now looking for experience in a bigger bank, in fact, the biggest bank in Nigeria at that time, in terms of turnover and profitability, I moved over to First Bank in 2003 as a senior manager and deputy financial controller. A year after, I was promoted to principal manager and pioneer head of budget and performance management. This same colleague of mine, we served together in First Bank again, is also in this chamber, can testify to that. So having left First Bank and looking for international banking exposure, I joined Standard Chartered Bank as a general manager. In fact, as the regional manager for finance and strategy for consumer banking, covering the entire of West Africa, 6 countries, Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Gambia, Cote d'Ivoire, and Togo. So I had my offices in both Lagos and Accra. I did this for about 3 years as a general manager. But I was reinvited by First Bank to join their newly formed executive management team as the chief financial officer of the bank and an executive vice president, which I obliged in December 2009, went back to First Bank. Just a year after, I was elevated to a member of the board as an executive director and the group chief financial officer of First Bank, a role I performed up to 2014, February 20 specifically, when the then President Goodluck Jonathan, found me worthy to be appointed as a deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to replace the then Mr. Tunde Lemon, who just retired from service. I was screened and confirmed by this Allo chamber, by the Banking and Finance Committee, under the chairmanship of Mr. Basiotu, who is currently the governor of Cross River State. So I'm happy to be here. While I was in Central Bank of Nigeria, I joined as Deputy Governor in charge of financial system stability. And my major responsibility was to supervise all Nigerian banks and non-bank financial institutions in terms of operational oversight and regulatory policies. A year after, in 2015, I was moved over as Deputy Governor to oversee corporate services of Central Bank. In Central Bank, corporate services is responsible for all the support functions in Central Bank, including finance, human resources, legal, procurement, communication, security, and so on and so forth. I did this for about a year before I was moved to Deputy Governor Operations, which I did for about 2 years before I voluntarily resigned to contest the governorship election in my state, Oyo State. When I was at Central Bank, to round up, I was privileged to serve the country as the board chairman of Financial Institution Training Center, FITC, as the board chairman of the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System, NIBS, as a board member of the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON, as a board member of the Nigerian Security Printing and Meeting Company, NSPMC, as a board member of the Federal Inland Revenue Services, FRS, and a board member.
The nominee, I have 36 PhDs around the world. If I should appear before the Senate to read even my honorary degrees, they will not be able to close in a day. So all the boards you have served, we have taken judicial notice of all. Now let me invite somebody from Oyo State to find out when last you visited home. Because you could do all these things you are doing, and yet you are totally disconnected from home. Yes, the distinguished senators from Oyo State, Abdul Fattah Buhari.
Mr. President, distinguished colleague, my name is Buhari Abdul Fattah. Mr. President, I will start from where you raised an observation. Myself and my two other colleagues, yesterday we met on our nominee, and we all agree that he's a known person to us. We know him very well. That you are saying that when last did he visit Oyo State? He resides in Oyo State, he resides in Ibadan. So the visiting aspect does not even come out of it at all, because that's where he stays. Mr. President, myself and my colleagues yesterday, when we were discussing him, we were so happy, and we know he's a very brilliant chap. And like the logo of my state, we are a pace setter. We are not asking him to take a bow. We want the Senate to see the product of the first class we have. Ask him question, and we'll answer you very well. Because we are proud of the product we have. Mr. President, in 2018, during the 8th Senate, he came to me one day, after he was the deputy governor of CBN, and then I said, Egbon, I will resign. I was dreaming, you resign what? He said, I want to resign from there. Why are you resigning? He said, I want to go and contest for governorship. That day I said, why? He said, look, the question is that I want to serve the people. I have the instinct that I want to serve. I agree with him that day, because for somebody to say he's leaving an exalted position of deputy governor of Central Bank, number 2 in command at that time, that I want to serve, you can see the sincerity that he really wants to serve. So at that time, with him, day in, day out, I was always in the cranny and corner of all our state during the campaign. Unfortunately, we didn't win at that time. But since that time, he maintained constant relationship with the grassroots. So for the president taking him, because our product is a first-class product, is a good person that can serve in any ministry. When I say any ministry, when you go through his CV, Mr. President, speak volume. And can you even see, Mr. President, you have to come in at the right time that look, if me as the Senate President start reading my CV today, maybe we will not live here. He's so proud of what he has. Mr. President, my two other colleagues can confirm and say something about Adelabu. It's a first-class product. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's okay. No, you're okay. Abdul Fattah, you're okay. You see, if you are challenging the Senate to ask him questions, by the time the Senate is through with the questions, I hope you will still be smiling. Because why I'm mentioning this is, our dear nominee, you just mentioned that you were in Central Bank. In your opinion, was the Central Bank in competition with the federal government in its operations? Note what I've just said. Because in the minds of some people, they believe that the Central Bank is running a government within a government. Note it. That's number one. And the second one is, will you be very proud of how the Central Bank, prior to the emergence of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ran the economy of Nigeria? That's number two. Number three, we do think that the policy of changing currency in 2 weeks to election, No, I'm not asking question. I'm not asking question. No, the nominee is very brilliant. It is Abdul Fattah that started it. He said, so let me not ask any question. Let me allow the floor because Abdul Fattah, you are challenging the Senate. Watch out. I start with distinguished Senate Whip. Start because I know you.
Well, distinguished colleagues and SP, first of all, I want to actually congratulate the nominee. And Mr. Senate President, I stand here to always guide the Senate. This gentleman was before us, and we screened him to be the deputy governor of a central bank. The Senate has not changed. The content may have changed, but the rule of the Senate is still the same. We have screened him before, and he left to contest. But my question, because Buhari asked for it, I want to find out whether you are part of the Anchor Borrowers Scheme. If you are, then would you say that the Anchor Borrowers Scheme has achieved what it's supposed to? Then, if you are not, and the Anchor Borrowers Scheme was introduced with good intent, what would you think would be better way, especially now that we need to grow what we eat? And this is one of the major problems. That's the second question. The third one, because he said you should ask questions. The singular exchange rate triggered by this administration is with good intention, but the backlash of it is now being felt, and dollar is going up. And once it continues going, the price of products, which 95% of our consumption is imported, will continue to grow up. And the income that is going to our people is not the same. That's number 3. Number 4. Do I stop there? One more. Okay. You said something in Hausa. Mr. President, I beg to sit down.
Mike, well, the distinguished colleagues, with all sense of seriousness, I think we have a first-class bread before us. But what distinguished Chief Whip of the Senate was trying to say was that it should compare the multiple exchange rates that probably operated in their time with a single exchange rate currently in place, and advise on which one is the best. Before you answer that, let me get former Accountant General of the Federation, former Governor of Gombe State, and now distinguished Senator Dan Kwambo. You know a lot about the monetary industry. Please also ask him.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Ibrahim Nankombo. I represent Gombe North. Let me start by congratulating our brother and my colleague. I say my colleague because I was in Cooper's Library, one of the famous accounting firms in the world, the #1 actually. And we built foundation of professionalism in that industry. My question, my brother, today the federal government is running 2 budgets, one for 2022 to December 2023, one 2023 to December 2023. By our Constitution, this is a violation of the Constitution, because the Constitution requires the Auditor General to submit an account within 3 months after preparation of an account by the Accountant General in 3 months, that is 6 months. Today, the accounts of the Federation have not been submitted to the Parliament. What will you do if you are maybe the Minister of Finance or somebody that will be in charge of this kind of thing? Will you stop the 2022 accounts from running immediately, or what will you do otherwise? Two.
Yeah.
Order 52-4. With your permission, Mr. President, may I read? But Jibrin cannot. It's 52-4. A senator must confine his observations to the subjects under discussion and may not introduce matter irrelevant thereto. Mr. President, what we are discussing here, I'm coming. Can I explain? We are screening a nominee here, but my distinguished colleague brought a matter that is irrelevant and not true. Excuse me. Order, please. Order, please. Order. I will need to explain, please. He is misguiding the Senate. We are not operating two budgets in this country. We are not operating 2 budgets in this country. What happened really was that at the end of 2022, the capital budget was not fully implemented. Why do I say so? Because certain items of expenditures that were started could not finish. And so here in this Senate, we requested that the executive government should be given the opportunity to conclude those projects. That's what happened. And so we pass a motion here, we pass a resolution. So, excuse me. Order, please. Order, please. Then a resolution was brought by the Senate. A resolution which Senator Alero will attest to, that we should be able to finish our roads and so on and so forth, because money was provided, but there was a problem because of rainy season. We could not finish. And so that what happened. It was done in the interest of the people of this country and by the support of the Senate. So I think we should guide the Senate. I mean, we should order. We took the decision ourselves. Order, please. Order. We took, can I explain, please? We took the, order, please. We took the decision here for the interest of the people of this country. And it was our resolution here. So to now say two projects are being operated, I think it's not correct. I think there's a need to guide the Senate and to guide everyone to understand the situation. I say submit. And only capital.
Distinguished Deputy Senate President, well, your explanation is to reflect that distinguished Senator Dan Kwambo was about to mislead Nigerians and that we are running two budgets, when in reality he was also questioning these hollow chambers for passing a resolution that some of the capital budgets that were not finished in 2022, but which monies were provided, should be allowed to continue. And that does not amount to running two budgets. So it is important for the press to know that the distinguished Senator Dan Kwambo, from a political perspective, was trying to mislead the Senate. So your point of order is hereby sustained. Can I listen to distinguished Senator Tambua? Please, in case you want to ask the question.
Have you finished? Well, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I believe that Mr. President, sitting as chair, would not want me to go back to the issue raised by distinguished Senator Dan Kwambo. As a former speaker of a co-chamber of this National Assembly. Because if you want me to do that, Mr. Senate President, my response to you will be that a wrong is a wrong. Wait, a wrong is a wrong. When you want to roll over a budget, you roll it over. Okay, you want me to address?
Well, I thought you were. Distinguished Senator Tambua, I thought you raised your hand to ask question, but I noticed that you are not the one who raised your hand to ask question. It's actually Senator Wadada. Senator Wadada. So I think my eye caught the wrong dress.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues, I remain honorable. Senator Ahmed Wadada Aliyu, representing Nasarawa West Senatorial District of Nasarawa State. I still remain a horse rider. Mr. Nominee, congratulations for your achievements. Your resume really speaks for you. My question, I have two questions for you. One has got to do with your family background. You are a grandson of a great politician who was positively on the opposition side. As Deputy Governor in Central Bank of Nigeria.
Your next step? Adelphi University, because your goal is teaching.
Went beyond monetary policy, jurisdiction of it, to fiscal policy, and intervening in virtually everything, took over the constitutional responsibilities of agencies that were created by act of parliament. You were there, and coming from the family you came from, we would have expected you to have done something. Now that you are a nominee on your way to becoming minister, and by your resume, you are very likely to be a minister of one of the economic ministries. If you find yourself in the same situation you did in CBN, and with due respect, I wouldn't want to say compromised, but kept mute where you needed to talk. I mean, that is it. Secondly, though it did not happen while you were at the bank, but it happened, I mean, you got into the bank with the policy in place. Today, it is a policy of the central bank that every chief executive of commercial bank should exit after 10 years. This policy had nothing, at the point of inception, had nothing to do with the shareholders of banks. Don't you think that such a policy should be reviewed? Because where a chief executive is performing, effectively driving the bank to profitability and profitability after profitability, and then after 10 years, he or she growing the assets of the bank, and after 10 years, he or she is asked to exit, even if the shareholders of the bank are comfortable with him. You agree with me? There are bankers around the world, like David Zalman of Prosperity Bank Share, who had spent 21 years as chief executive because the shareholders of the bank were comfortable with him, and is adding, or he was adding, the needed and required value. What would you do differently as far as that policy is concerned when and if you find yourself in an office that is relevant to this? This is my submission, my 2 questions to you, but congratulations for your achievement so far.
Senator Wadada, if I heard the nominee very well, he pointed out that he met with his senators, Senator Abdul Fattah. You confirmed that many years ago, and then he now hinted you that he felt he should go into service to humanity. He would like to serve his people, and because of that he resigned as Deputy Governor of Central Bank. So some of the questions we are asking, that action had actually answered some of those questions. Distinguished Senator Solomon Adiola Ademiloku, Olamileko, because you are the chairman of our preparation. No, have we changed it? We also are the chairman of our preparation, and you are seeing somebody in the industry. Just ask the last question so that he can take off from there. He is going to answer the questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Adeola Solomon Olamileko, representing the good people of Ogun West Senatorial District. Mr. President, thank you for this opportunity to speak to a friend. Mr. Adelabu Adebayo Adekola is a friend of long standing, a first-class graduate of developmental economics from Obafemi Awolowo University. Mr. President, his resume speaks volume, and I strongly believe that he has something to offer this country. Mr. President, my own question is this, and I strongly believe that if he's not finance minister, he will be heading towards national planning and budgets, either of the two. But sir, Mr. Adebayo has been involved in government at the highest level of banking activities. And you will agree with me that one of our major challenges during the last administration is the conflict between the fiscal and the monetary policy, which generated a lot of controversies, even during the consideration of the medium-term expenditure framework. We continue to ask this question. And having served as the deputy governor of Central Bank, I want to know his take as far as the current challenges we have between these two major policies. Because no matter economic reform we might be putting in place, if there is conflict between these two policies, it will be difficult to achieve any meaningful achievement. So I want to ask, why standing before us, that if peradventure he ends up as Minister for National Planning, definitely he has to be constructively engaged with the Central Bank of Nigeria. How will he handle this particular aspect of our economic challenges that have been confronting us as a nation? Secondly, Mr. President, yesterday the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria spoke to us, and in his speech, it carries a lot of promising future for us as a country. He mentioned in the area of agriculture what he's going to do. He also speak to the area of transportation and all other things that it tends to bring to the table, even though we are seeing it as palliative measure. But it has to do with national planning and budgets. I want him to speak to that president's speech in 2 minutes. What is his own view about that particular speech? I so submit. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, the distinguished nominee.
Distinguished senators, thank you so much for the questions. And I also want to thank you for speaking fluently about my CV. Thank you very much. I will start from the question by our revered Senate President. Was CBN in competition with federal government? Of course, CBN can never be in competition with the federal government because Central Bank of Nigeria is an economic arm of federal government, which handles or oversees the monetary policy functions of federal government. The second arm is the Ministry of Finance, Budget, Planning, AGF, that oversees the fiscal policy arm. And technically, I don't really see anything wrong about the structure of the CBN, but the only issue which I will be open to this allo chamber is around the governance structure of supervising the CBN itself. I want to state that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. There are three highest decision-making bodies in Central Bank of Nigeria: the Committee of Governors, Monetary Policy Committee, and the Board of Directors. The CBN governor is the chairman of these three committees, which is good. There's nothing bad in it because all over the world, the independence of the CBN must be guaranteed. But the governor is just the first among equals. There are 5 governors in the Central Bank of Nigeria: a governor, and 4 deputy governors. We must ensure that the appointment of the 4 deputy governors must be independent of the central bank governor, so that they are not subservient to the governor himself. Number 2 is the fact that the reporting line is the governor to the presidency. And for 5 years, the president may not see any of the deputy governors. There should be occasions, it could be once in a quarter, once in 6 months, that the entire committee of governors will meet with Mr. President, and then from their own perspective. There's what we call minority opinions. In all the minutes of the COG, of the MPC, and of the board of directors, they are always documented. Most of these controversial decisions coming out of the CBN were actually taken by either 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5. There's always a minority opinion. So far, the 3 as the governor by their side, they have their way. The minority will have their say. Even they may have superior arguments. Once in a while, I believe the presidency should undertake to go through some of these minority opinions at the committee of governors meetings, at the board of directors meetings, or monetary policy committee meetings. A number of issues may actually come out of it. And lastly, sir, I would also suggest that the economic management team of the country, of the nation, which comprise of the finance minister, the budget and national planning, the CBN governor, the Attorney General of the Federation, and some other relevant ministries, must have some subtle oversight on CBN in terms of interrogating a lot of decisions of Central Bank of Nigeria. If CBN knows that there is a body it's going to report to, in terms of the list of the companies and individuals they allocated foreign exchange to, how the MPC arrived at the interest rate, the benchmark rate, the volume of money created, in terms of BDCs licensed, payment system, and a lot of other things, even development, finance, intervention, and lending, they will be very, very moderate, and they will be careful, because this is an abnormal situation in the country and must be handled unconventionally.
Before then, distinguished senators, somebody was providing solutions to some of our problems. And I noticed that some senators were distracted. The things he said here, he pointed out that there was no proper monitoring of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And that, in fact, there is no monitoring. And that in all the meetings of the various arms of the CBN, there were always minority opinions that may even turn out to be the opinion that would have salvaged the economy. He also pointed out that there was a big flaw, and that flaw is the fact that the president of the country only meets with the central bank governor alone. And there was never a time he demanded to see the other 4 deputy governors. He also, and therefore, whatever the central bank governor tells the president would look as if that is the decision of the CBN, when in reality, they have their own diverse opinions. And he also pointed out that there was no kind of organized or statutory meeting that involved the Accountant General of the Federation, the Governor of Central Bank, the Budget Planning Division, the CBN governors, and those 4 deputy governors, even once in a year, that in 5 years of being there, nothing like that. And therefore, what came out of CBN did not reflect the totality of their decisions, and so things went wrong. It is not as if CBN was in competition with government, but that nobody was supervising CBN. And therefore, whatever decisions they took there, they had nobody to report to. So I think this is a food for thought for distinguished senators. And that means that we must revisit the act that set up the CBN. Because most of the problems we are seeing cannot be answered by him. But he cannot stand here and condemn the very institution that he belonged. But he has at least hinted us that it is not every decision that he agreed with. or the other people, the other deputy governors agree with. So we probably would not have been where we are now if indeed we had a proper oversight and monitoring of the CBN by the act itself. I think you should not expose more. We welcome you and we'd like you to take a bow. We'll consider your case after this.
Based on my conversation with the facts, what we have is 2007 Act. What was amended was Bofia.
No, we amended both Bofia and CBN. I remember now. We amended both. You remember?
What year did you see that?
Last year.
Last year.
Last year. There are records now.
Let me say it's no more motion. Let us start with screening tomorrow. Let's not add motion. Let's start with screening tomorrow. Let every motion. No motion.
Oh yeah. Why people like that? Because they are not there. People can help or not. After the we just take an answer. We are tired. Somebody's mic is on. Is that mic on? Press it down. Press it down. No, this is his nominee. He will only take it out as a former member. Off the mic there. Okay. Distinguished colleagues, we have another nominee before us. Distinguished Right Honorable Ekpo. Just run through a brief resume of yourself so that Nigerians will get to know who you are as quickly as you can.
Your Excellency, the Senate President, Your Excellency, the Deputy Senate President, Principal Officers of the Senate, distinguished senators, permit me to recognize senators from Akwa Ibom State, Your Excellency, the Senate President, Your Excellency, the Deputy Senate President, Principal Officers of the Senate, distinguished senators, may I recognize Senator Ekong Samson and Senator Nyakan Basi from Akwa Ibom State. My name is Honorable Ekpo. I am from Ikaluku government of Akwa Ibom State. I'm here at the benevolence of His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as a ministerial nominee. Distinguished senators, I started my primary education at St. Francis or St. Dominic's, Ikot-Ebenwa. I proceeded to St. Augustine Secondary School for my secondary school education. From there to the University of Calabar, where I obtained my first degree in ecology. After that, I went for further studies, and my master's I obtained in the area of environmental pollution and toxicology. Distinguished senators, I have been a chairman of a local government, caretaker chairman, elected chairman. Then thereafter, I was elected to the House of Representatives between 2007 to 2011. So while in the House, I was appointed into Committee on Customs, Deputy Chairman, Committee on Industries, Committee on National Security and Intelligence, Committee on Power, and Committee on Niger Delta Affairs. Yes. Your Excellencies,
Distinguished Senator Abu.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Ishiaku Abo. I represent the good people of Adamawa North. Mr. President, we have a convention. We have a precedence. This is a former member of the House of Representatives and our colleague in this chamber. Nigeria operates a bicameral legislature. Is our colleague. Please, sir, take a bow and go. Thank you.
Is that the view of the chambers? Those who are supposed to say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. You may take a bow and go.
Distinguished senators, please, let's maintain order. Let's maintain order, please. Let's maintain order, please. Distinguished senators, take your seats.
Adjournment.
Senator Gumer. Dear nominee, congratulations. Congratulations on your nomination by Mr. President. We have your resume. You may wish to just give a brief summary of yourself, and thereafter take a few questions from our distinguished colleagues.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I hope. All right. Your Excellency. Is it?
Ever wonder how Lidl sells fresh seafood for so much less? Oh, could it be the otherworldly flavor is in fact otherworldly?
Package says Chilean carp.
Chilean.
Yeah. Distinguished Senator Godswill Apabio, the Deputy Senate President, Senator Jibrin Barrow, other distinguished principal officers of the Senate, the distinguished senators from Katsina State, Senator Abdul Aziz Adua, Senator Muntari Danduse, Senator Nasiru Zangwandora. May I also take a moment to specifically mention the female senators, Senator Banigo, Senator Adebule, and Senator Ireti Kingibe. All distinguished senators of the Federal Republic, good evening. I am Hannatu Musawa. I would first of all like to express my sincere appreciation to this hallowed house for accommodating my participation in this crucial exercise for the evolution of our nation. First and foremost, I would like to praise the Almighty Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, for his blessing given to me and to our nation. May I state my sincere appreciation to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for considering me fit to be nominated as the Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I stand before you today deeply touched and inspired, and with profound gratitude and a deep sense of purpose as I share my journey with you. My journey thus far begins and ends with two stories of two African boys. The first is the tale of a little black boy born in the rural setting of Bichi in Kano State into a humble family that struggled to make ends meet. By accident of birth, he started off selling cola nuts on the streets just to make ends meet. But by determination, courage, innovation, initiation, toil and focus, he found himself standing beside Malam Aminu Kano during the Northern Elements Progressive Union movement, studying at Cambridge University, speaking Mandarin, becoming one of the most prolific Northern politicians of his time, and empowering his children, especially his daughters. That man's name was Alhaji Musa Musawa, and he was my father. He passed on exactly 147 days ago, approximately 3,551 hours ago. As I stand here today, I do so in fulfillment of his journey, of his legacy, and of his effort. My greatest regret is that he is not alive to see his third-born daughter being screened as a ministerial nominee of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I grew up as a daughter of parents that cherished learning and believed in the power of justice to transform lives. The foundation bequeathed to me by the parents and community that brought me up planted in me a lifelong commitment to pursuing truth, fairness, and equality. Politics may mean different things to different people, but it has become another avenue for me to drive change. As reluctantly as I am to call myself a politician, however, when one has been an active participant in the political game for 21 years, one is forced to come to terms with the fact that, yeah, honey, you probably are a politician. My political journey started in December 2002 when I joined the Buhari organization. Okay. I started my story, I'll conclude.
What we expect from you what we expect from you is just verbal summary of yourself. My name is this, that, not an address to the United Nations. So, and once you do that, you now wait for us to guide you as you progress. So I think you have done that adequately. Distinguished Senator Abu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name again is Senator Ishaku Abo. I represent the good people of Adamawa North. Mr. President, I want to first of all thank President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for in the first time in the history of this nation nominating 7 women at one fell swoop as ministers designate. Mr. President, we never had it this good. We must encourage women, our mothers, to participate in politics. And Mr. Tinubu have shown this commitment. By this, Mr. President, I call on my colleagues to please, Haratu Musawa to take a bow and go. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Ismail Akawu.
Yes. Mr. President, my dear distinguished colleague, I am Suleiman Eka Usmaila, OFR, representing Kano South Senatorial District. Mr. President, I want to establish from where my dear colleague, distinguished Senator Ishaq Abu stopped. This hollow chamber, and of course, in the spirit of working together with the executive, with our president, I think we need to commend Mr. President, and in commending him again, we need to show it practically of supporting his nominee and allowed her to go or to take bow and go to support him. This will show how friendly, gender friendly the Senate are and our dear distinguished President of the Senate. Secondly, I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, I just went to this side. I listened to Senator Abu. I came to this side. I listened to Senator Kau, and there seems to be unanimity of thought. Is it the view of this Senate that the nominee should be allowed to take a bow? Those who are in support say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished nominee, congratulations. You may take a bow and go. The Senate leader.
I did not hear. I never know. This thing they did is wrong. Papa, they want to work. Very wrong. This is what they don't see, they are telling him, man. They are telling him. No, I said that. No, actually, no, that is why you are now, if not, you will not know that to ask questions. Papa, when you are coming to see, no, it's okay, wait.
Leader of the Senate. 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 Move a motion to suspend the other papers on the other paper.
Mr. President, very, very distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, Mr. President, Minority Leader, please, no, pay attention now. Mr. Speaker, we revert back to Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend the other items on the agenda to the next legislative day. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as chair, I wish to second the motion moved by the leader of the Senate. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, a motion has been moved and seconded that we suspend the remaining items on the other paper to the next legislative date. Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Yes. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate revert back to plenary for the chair to report progress. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as chair, I wish to second the motion that the Senate President move back to plenary to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, a motion has been moved by the leader of the Senate and seconded by the minority leader that the Senate do refer to plenary to report progress. Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole resumed consideration of the request of Mr. President
Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces for the confirmation of nominees for appointments as ministers of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Many of the nominees attended the session, answered questions from distinguished senators on a number of topical issues. The aforementioned nominees appeared before us today. His Excellency Senator David Umahi from Ebonyi State, Mr. Adebayo Olawale from Ogun State, His Excellency Nasir Ahmad Al-Rufai from Kaduna State, Architect Ahmed Musa Dangiwa from Katsina State, Chief Uche Geoffrey Naji from Enugu State, Stella Okotete from Delta State, Mr. Adekola Adebayo Adelabu from Oyo State, Right Honorable Ekperikpe Ekpo from Akwa Ibom State, Barrister Hanatu Musawa from Katsina State. Further consideration of nominees have been deferred to the next legislative day. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Having exhausted the items on the order paper for today, this Senate stands adjourned to Wednesday, the second day of August 2023 at 11 a.m. prompt.
Yes, only those people were able to pinpoint, look at the Western countries, their leaders, and tell them truth, simply because they were military or they know what they are doing. But beside them, until the Russian and American wars, the Russian and Ukraine war started. Now, because everybody have seen that Russia is power. Now look at how many Africans are able to pinpoint on their own chest and talk pinpoint to the Western. 2-3 years ago, no any president in Africa could have done that. 5 years ago, no any president, all of them were afraid. Simply because they were afraid. Not like they didn't know the right thing. So we are welcoming the Russia to come and support us because we share the common interest with them. Russia get to understand that the Africans are losing their resources to the Western. The Western use that to empower themselves and then come back to fight him as a Russian. So Russia say, okay,